Hi, this is Randy, and I'm with my mom and dad. This is our first session. So, Dad and Mom, why don't you state your names and how old you are?
Harold Baker, 86 years old.
And I'm Evelyn, 80 years old, soon to be 81.
81 in March, right?
In March.
And Dad, you were born on Flag Day, right?
Right, June the 14th, right on the day.
Yeah. So, one of my biggest questions or things I don't want to lose is how you two met, because I've heard so many stories, and every time I hear them, I laugh myself to death. So it's one story I don't want to forget.
And that's nice of you.
Well, your dad lived across the street from me. My dad and mother lived across the street from him, and they had a gas station over there.
Okay.
And I was a junior in high school, and I thought he was pretty nice when I saw him. Of course, I was going with another guy at the time.
Okay.
And we got engaged.
You and the other guy.
You and the other guy. Me and the other guy. And we had set a wedding date for June the 25th.
Okay.
1952.
Wow.
June the 29th.
Well, whatever. It was in June.
Okay.
It was in June.
Dad remembers.
Yeah. Anyway, I used to go over to the gas station because his mother was always in the gas station. And I liked her. And then it got so I'd go upstairs. They lived up over the gas station. And he was there. And things kind of blossomed between us. And so, since I was engaged to someone else, we kind of had to sneak around. And he would park the car in the garage out by the gas station.
A double garage.
Yeah. And he'd wait for me to come home with a date with my boyfriend.
Okay.
And he'd turn the backup lights on the car.
Or the brake lights, either one.
Brake lights. And when my boyfriend would go home, I'd go over. And we did that for a long time.
And Jimmy had no clue whatsoever.
The lady up above,
Alice,
she knew what was going on because she used to tell your mother, I know what's going on over there. You don't get me. And we says, nothing, Alice. We know.
So John Brown's father and mother had a store
right below that,
right by the old post office.
Okay.
And when he come home from a date, he used to stand there and drink a bottle of soda and kind of look out the window. And he sometimes would see me go over to the gas station. And he told me about it. So John kept it a secret for a long time.
Wow.
And then, as the wedding date got closer, Harold got nervous, I guess.
No, my sister said to me, well, Evelyn's getting married pretty soon. Isn't it something, somebody you can talk to her? I said, what do you mean talk to her? She's getting married. She's got her apartment, she's got her furniture, she had all her parties. And now you want me to come in and take her away from her? I couldn't do that.
Now, which sister would this?
Hilda.
Aunt Hilda.
Aunt Hilda.
Okay.
Hilda wanted me to marry her, or, stick with her.
Uh-huh.
And, of course, Susie loved her, my other sister. And just kept on going. And then they graduated from school, and they all went to Washington, D.C.
Well, Jimmy's class did.
Yeah, Jimmy's class did.
You were a junior, so...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you were gonna retire. You were gonna graduate that year.
Oh, yeah, I was graduating. Jimmy had already graduated.
Okay. Okay.
And when I went to Washington, he got very jealous of what I might have done down there. He didn't. I didn't do anything,
Right.
but he
Just the fact
Well,
that he
he
wasn't
was
there
jealous.
with you.
I
He was
couldn't
a
talk.
jealous man.
I couldn't talk to him much. He very possessive, you know. So
That's why she and I hit it off, really. She told me what he does, why he's so jealous, and I said, I can't see that. You're a good girl, and what the heck, but ever
but I was
since,
seeing Harold on the side, so I wasn't a good girl either. So. And so I decided. Well, Harold, I really got to love Harold. I really did. He could he understood me. He listened to me. I didn't have no fights with him, and I decided I was gonna break off my engagement.
Wow.
And
Just a few weeks before the
Well,
wedding.
well,
Right?
well, 29th to the 5th, so
yeah,
not 2 weeks, about a week.
yeah. So anyway, I did. I gave Jimmy back his ring, and I told him that I just couldn't do it anymore. So
What was the reaction like with your parents and
Well,
Jimmy? And
I have since talked to his daughter, and she said, "You know, Evelyn, you broke my dad's
Yes.
heart when
Oh,
you broke
wow.
it off." She said he took it pretty hard, but I've never ever regretted doing what I
never
did.
looked back.
Never looked back.
No, she never did.
And what about Grandma Smith? And,
Oh, well, they were,
Well, they thought I was pregnant, you know, and everybody was saying it's too soon. You don't know enough about him, and this and that.
I never
But
heard
we
of
decided
such
to
doing
get married on July the 5th.
just like a week
We
after.
well, the 29th of
June.
June and the 5th of July, so it's
Yeah.
only about a week.
Wow.
Not even a week.
We went and got our blood test, and saw the minister in Elmira, which was a mistake because we couldn't get married in Pennsylvania by getting our blood test in Elmira. So we had to get married in Elmira.
Okay.
That was a quickie. We had to do something.
Yeah.
So anyway, we planned a party. My mother and dad never drank. None of my sisters or brother drank.
But we know Dad's side drinks.
Yeah, right. And so he
They
planned.
had a party on their side, and we had a party on our side.
Yeah, my mother and dad put on a party at the house. It's like I said, we lived just across the street.
But mother and dad, her mother wasn't really enthused because we're doing this.
So
Because
quick. She really thought I was pregnant. But your father and I waited 3 years before Rick was born.
Wow.
I wanted to get to know him.
Right.
I did things with him. I went at that time he was driving truck. I went with him on trips to
drive truck,
yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah,
unloaded loads,
potatoes, slept on the potato bags
5-pound
In the
bag,
truck?
in the trailer.
tractor
Really?
Yeah.
trailer, 30,000 pounds.
We
on
didn't
it.
have no money. We
Wow.
didn't have no money to get a hotel room or nothing. So
So we slept on the back of the potatoes.
yeah, and then unloaded them the next day.
Really?
Him and I unloaded
Wow.
them the next day.
Things that we did.
We just
but
didn't.
we
We
enjoyed
just didn't
doing
have
them.
money to go anywhere. We stayed with my mother about 3 weeks.
Yeah, that
Oh,
was
wow.
They had, at that time they had horning bees, what they called horning bees, and somebody climbed up a ladder in front of my mother's house and opened up a window and went in and short-changed the sheets and put
Oh,
rice in the bed.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and they had a
Put
big time.
cereal on the bed and everything like that.
Yeah, it was. It was
Now, I remember at your wedding, you had napkins
with
that,
Jimmy on it.
Yeah.
Jimmy and Evelyn on it?
But we didn't use them. We,
Yeah, but we had them.
we had them.
How many people called me Jimmy? A lot of people.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I've been going with Jimmy all through high school.
How many years have you been going with Jimmy?
Well, all through high school.
Yeah, 12 years.
Wow.
And everything in her book, I brought her book. You ought to see her book. Everything was Jimmy.
I stood up at his sister's wedding, at
Really?
Jimmy's sister Bertha, Clarence Lee, and they're still married, I think,
Wow.
all these years.
So how long were you guys going together before you got married?
I never took her out.
On a date.
I never spent one dime on her.
So how long had you been seeing each other before you got married?
Oh, probably
couple
a
months?
year and a half.
Oh,
just,
that long?
well, not
He
together,
had a
but
girlfriend.
yeah, she would go out, she'd holler to me or something
Ah,
like that,
okay.
and I holler to her. But other than that, no, it was close, about 6 months before
Yeah,
she
yeah.
was getting.
He got a new car. I like that. 49 Pontiac,
Really?
green.
Yeah, green.
Yeah,
And you were driving truck at the time, Dad?
for Elio.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
cheese truck.
Okay.
Was I yelling for Elio?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I
Yeah,
was.
she was. Yeah, she was.
Huh.
Yeah. It was.
I made $28 a trip
Really? To New York City?
and back. I go like 7 o'clock at night, and I'd be back here by 7 o'clock tomorrow night.
And Mom would go with you every once in a while?
No, not down there, Mike.
Not much down there. I went a couple times.
So where did the sack of potatoes come in?
When we went to Buffalo.
Oh,
I hauled on the side.
okay.
People would call me and say, "Will you haul this load to Buffalo or something?" And I said, "Okay." So
Well, you didn't own your own truck, did you?
yes, we did, Bobby and I,
Oh, really?
at one time.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So Uncle Bobby drove truck too?
Oh, with one arm, yeah. He wasn't supposed to, but he did.
Really?
He had that on the steering
Oh,
wheel.
A
yeah.
knob on the steering wheel.
I
He
see.
used to take that wheel around.
Wow.
Then we were up in Massachusetts and he ran into a car.
Uh-huh.
Well, here he wasn't supposed to have license, or he didn't have the right license anyhow.
Right.
So I slipped over in his place. I got blamed for the accident and everything else, which I didn't care. At the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Back then you didn't.
Yeah, it didn't bother me any.
What did your sisters think about all this?
Well, they were all married at that time.
Yeah.
I was the
okay.
last one to
You're
get married.
You're the baby, right?
I'm the baby.
And
There's 6 years between me and.
they didn't think it. They thought the same thing, that
That-
she was pregnant, and you know that's what everybody thought.
Yeah.
90% of them thought that.
I know we shocked Millerton.
And where did you get married?
Down in Elmira, there's a church there by Tops. It's called a Centenary Church, I think.
Okay.
The church has been since torn down, but there's a building there that houses part of the old building.
Oh, okay.
But the main church was torn down.
I see.
And back then, you didn't. The license. All we had back then, when the minister said, "I now pronounce you man and wife," was just a book, and he filled that out and signed it,
That's
and that's all we had.
your license.
But when we went to get a license
Uh,
before we got married, that was recorded. And now, I think it's been about 6 or 7 years ago, I said to Harold, something happens to us, all we have is that book.
right.
And that wouldn't be valid, probably. No. And so we went to the courthouse in Elmira. And they said where we got married wasn't in their jurisdiction. So they sent us over to the town hall in Southport, and they had
They
had
had
it
it over
recorded.
Okay,
So I got a copy of it.
I see.
But back when we got married, they didn't have, they didn't give you anything.
Right, right.
And I guess now they do, but
The honeymoon was going to Waverly,
Waverly.
Waverly, and stay at not a motel,
it was a bed and
bed and
breakfast.
breakfast like.
Of course, they weren't called that back
Yeah.
then.
No.
Yeah.
And we stayed there one night, and we got up and we went and had breakfast and come home.
Wow.
That was it. That was our
And-
honeymoon.
And when you came home, you stayed at
With my
Grandpa and Grandma's.
grandma's.
Until we got, where did we live first? Down by Miller's.
We went down in Jen Miller's house down on Main Street.
Main Street, right by the-
in Millerton.
Right by the place we used to own
So
the
did you
laundromat.
rent it?
Yeah.
Did you rent it?
Yeah.
And she
But Dad wasn't making a lot of money.
No.
You weren't working. You just graduated,
I
right?
just graduated
Yeah,
from high
right.
school. Yeah.
Wow.
But she was very good about letting us rent there.
Yes, I think the rent was $20 a month or something like that. We had to pay for the, I guess, I forget anymore, but it was right reasonable. We couldn't afford much more.
Huh.
And when we bought a little TV, we had to pay $10 a month on that.
Then he got, by that time he was working with the New York State Electric and Gas. And he went,
I went to work for New York State Gas and Electric before we got married, honey, when I come out of the service.
oh, okay,
That was
okay,
I quit that before we
okay.
part of it.
Well, anyway, we went to Corning to live. We lived in South Corning in a Quonset hut.
Really?
One of those round things.
Not in South Corning, it was in what's that little
Oh, Gibson.
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 Gibson,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And when the trains would go by, my dishes would rattle.
Really?
everything was right.
So why did you move to Corning?
Because
Well,
he was, New York State Gas and Electric wouldn't let him live in Pennsylvania and work in
I had to
Wisconsin.
move there to keep my job.
Yeah.
And why did you choose Corning? Was it
Well,
close?
they put me to Corning, so it wasn't my choice.
Okay.
And they said, if you want to go to Corning, you can go, but you have to live around here. So that's what we did.
We got a little apartment over in South Corning. A man, Hams
know.
was her name. And then we lived upstairs, and we paid $10 a week
For everything.
for everything.
Really?
In our bedroom, you had to walk through the closet to get to the bedroom.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
But then I was working too. Was I
Yeah.
working?
Yeah, you had to work
Where
somewhere.
were you working, Mom? Do you remember?
At
Over Gibson, you were working at
yeah, because I had to walk from the Gibson up to the bridge
Up to
to
the
catch a
hill.
ride to work.
5, 6
In the
o'clock
dark.
in the morning.
Yeah, in the dark. It was where Raymond, your cousin Raymond,
Work.
worked.
Hilliard?
No, it was.
Oh, I forget.
They made restaurant checks.
I don't know. Don't worry
I
about it.
can't think of.
Well, anyway, Raymond worked there for 30 years or something.
This is Uncle Raymond Spittle?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
He worked there when I was working there, and they made checks, and they still use these checks in restaurants. They're the little green.
Oh, yeah.
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 Well, they're in numerical order when they're cut at the press.
Okay.
I was on the assembly line, picking them up and packing them, and they had to be in
Numerical.
numerical numbers. And I'd pack them in boxes and send them on down, and then they'd take them
Wow.
and ship them out.
When we were young, things didn't bother us like it does now. Like if ice was on the road or nothing, we know that Sanders would be by, so we start from here. And we went to Maryland a lot of times to see my sister Caroline, and of course my uncles and all lived down there. And the one uncle
This would be
Uncle Bert.
Grandma's brothers and sisters.
Right.
Right. And they made us stay there. Well, they had what you call beds, but was
It made of straw.
straw.
Oh, really?
Everything was straw. And when
Even
you
the
get
pillows.
into it, you just go down.
Really?
No, he wouldn't let us stay anywhere else. And he kept dogs down in the cellar.
Little bulldogs.
Yeah. And he lived by the school. And
Is this in Catonsville?
yes, Catonsville. And he didn't get along with the kids. The kids bothered the dogs, so he would be out there giving them kids hell. The kids didn't like him.
How many brothers and sisters did Grandma Ivy have?
Oh, let's see.
I don't know.
Uncle Bert.
I remember going down to his
Yeah.
house,
Yeah.
and I think there was aunts there too.
Oh, and
Aunt Caroline. She
no,
lived-
I
No.
mean Bert's sisters, maybe.
Oh, Bert was
huh?
Loretta's husband. Maybe you're thinking of.
Oh, could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was Loretta's house.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bert.
You know, it's heck to think about what my mother's brothers were, but I forgot.
I know.
She had 3 or 4 of them.
And they all lived there, right?
Yeah, right around Catonsville.
So you guys would go down there every once
Oh,
in a
yeah.
while?
Oh, we loved Aunt Caroline. We would stay there.
She was one of my favorite sister-in-laws.
Yeah.
Aunt Caroline?
Until
And
him,
Caroline had a husband,
Eddie.
Eddie. He worked at Westinghouse. We got along with him good. Then when they first got married, and we went to Baltimore when they first got married to see him, they went on a vacation, so they would loan us their apartment, which was air conditioned, which we never had,
Wow.
in that whole week. So we really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Things like that, you know.
Yeah.
We went down to Uncle Paul's to visit him, and he took us out on his boat. And there was a storm brewing
Okay.
out in the Chesapeake Bay.
Uh-huh.
We got up almost to the bridge, and it started to get black. And he said, "Oh, I can outrace the
Uncle
storm."
Paul.
Uncle Paul
I
did.
couldn't.
Well, we was on a wooden boat, and
Yeah.
it had wooden seats, and it had poles where you could hang on. No life jackets.
Nothing.
No, no.
Oh,
If they
wow.
did, we didn't
We
have.
didn't have mine.
Right.
The storm started, and the waves were so big that the boat would go up and hit, and then it would
Drop.
come
Crash down.
crash
Of
down.
course, they would hit the wood and it would
Yeah.
make
Oh,
marks
wow.
in their
Yeah.
legs.
So
You and Dad were on the boat.
yeah,
boat.
and
Yeah.
Aunt Caroline and
Caroline was there with us.
yeah, and somebody else, and Paul. But anyway, I
We
kept
were lucky to
I
get
kept
out.
thinking to myself, if this boat tips over, am I strong enough to swim to shore? We could
Right.
see the shoreline. And then I thought, I don't think
Then
I
I
got
talked
the
to her
strength
out
to
that
do
stuff.
that.
I said, yes, you can do it. You gotta do it. That
Yeah,
way.
so.
You guys were really scared.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
I feared for my life. I
Oh,
didn't think
wow.
I'd see you kids again, and
Nothing.
my whole life flashed before me. But he made it back to an inlet,
Okay.
and we stayed there for a little while.
Oh, yeah, an hour or so.
Yeah, and then it kind of let up. It was just a blow
Yeah.
through. But anyway, when we got back to shore down his house, the back of my legs
Oh,
were all black where
Wow.
I had hit the
Some of 'em
wooden
were
seat.
bleeding.
Go off the seat
Yeah.
and land back.
some of them were bleeding.
Yeah, and I
Wow.
got down on the ground.
That's why she don't like boats today.
That's why I don't like boats.
Huh.
I could care less about going out.
When we go down Florida and go on the boat with Bobby to eat, she didn't mind that too much, but
Yeah, that was the big boat.
yeah.
Big,
Yeah.
yeah. So we've had a good life.
Good life, yes we did.
And Aunt Hilda and Aunt Caroline was two of your
Aunt
favorites.
Hilda always had Easter Sunday down to her house. And she'd hide eggs and little prizes for you guys. And that was when Candy and Robin were little and you guys were little. It was a lot of fun to be down there. Yes, it was. Yeah.
And Roger was a nice man.
Yeah.
He was a nice husband to Hilda.
And I remember staying at Aunt Caroline's house.
Oh, a lot of
I
times.
can picture her house. I mean, you go down, her kitchen was real small, and you go down in
down in the lower room.
And Vicky.
Vicky, Don't hear much from Vicky anymore.
Well, they have Vicky had a little girl, wasn't it?
Yeah, I can't remember what her name was now. It's been so long ago. But
if we thought about it, we could tell you, but I don't know anymore.
I know it was a different name.
Yeah.
So, since my birthday's tomorrow, how did you pick out the name Randy?
I don't know. It just came to me. And James is your grandfather Baker's name.
That's how you
His
got.
name was Harry James.
Right. And you loved Pop.
Oh, yeah. Aunt Susie and I took care of him when he got prostate cancer. We'd bathe him and change his clothes and help feed him. And because Susie and Harold and I was still living there with them. Upstairs over the gas station.
In them days, we didn't have no money to put him away or nothing. We had to take care of him.
Your mother would tend the gas station, and Susie and I take care of him.
Now, was Rick born before he passed away?
He was 6 months old.
No, 1 year old.
1 year?
1 year.
1 year.
You're
right
1
on
year.
the dot.
Yeah, 1 year old. Yeah.
He was a year old when he died.
He'd have me bring him downstairs and put him in what they call a jumper. His feet would go down through holes and he could jump up and down.
Down the
He
store.
put it up on the countertop in the gas station there. And he'd talk to him and play with him. And he loved that. So he did get to see Rick.
See, my dad didn't have any money because he was in construction work. And during the war, you couldn't get material. So he had to give up his construction job and went to work for Westinghouse. But in them days, I think I don't know how old he was around 60 then. And in them days, when you get 62, you were without a job. You had to retire. So when he retired, he rented this restaurant up here to keep him going.
Yeah, well.
When you kids, when I got pregnant for you boys, they didn't have maternity leave at that time. Wherever I was working, I had to quit my job.
Oh,
3 or 4 a month, anyhow, 2 months.
And then maybe get it back, but who knows?
Maybe you get it back, I know.
They didn't have. Well, I worked at the Remington Rand when I got pregnant for. Gosh, I forget. Anyway, they didn't have no maternity leave, and I had to quit my job. I'd worked there about
3 or 4 years.
A couple years anyhow. But
We still got our old typewriter. That's what you should take home.
Probably worth money. You guys sell it.
You sell it. You see how much it's worth.
I used to put springs in them.
Really?
And we worked on piecework, what you call piecework. You have to do so many a day to get your pay.
Okay. Oh, wow.
And I would try and do up maybe an hour's worth of work the day before for the next day. Yeah, in case I didn't feel good or something. And
it worked well.
It worked well. And my dad worked there too. Yeah. He was
machinist. He sharpened
the blades.
Tools.
Nice.
Like he'd take your screwdriver, boy. He used to make my screwdrivers the best. Yeah. Sharpen them. Anything to do with sharpening.
My mother worked at Remington Rand too for a while.
So what was it like growing up on the farm as a little girl?
Well, My sisters and I had a pony on the farm when I was little. I named her,
I forget.
I forget.
Can you see her?
But you had a pony.
Oh, yeah. And I'd ride her all over. And she had a foal. And it was wonderful to watch the foal being born and everything. Dad had to help her. But we did everything. We had a stone boat, my sisters and I.
A
would
what?
go out, a stone boat. And the horse would pull it. And we'd go out in the field and put stones on it for Dad. So when he plowed the field, after he plowed it,
after he plowed it, all
we
these
picked up
stones come to the top.
yeah, and we called it a stone boat. And it was just a flat piece of boards and
Right. And the horse would pull that.
And
You'd
that
be
little
along
horse
the
would
side
pull
and
it.
pick them up and throw them on there.
Yeah.
Get rid of the stones.
And we'd haul hay in on the wagon for Dad, and we'd throw. He would bring a fork down, pick up a bunch of hay, take it, pull it back up, and drop it in the haymow. Yeah, everything was done by horses. My dad didn't have no tractor then.
Nothing.
Nothing.
And did you have dairy cows?
We
Or?
had, I think there was about 9
Dairy-
or 10 dairy cows.
cow.
And I used to shovel out the
Manure?
manure,
Oh, yeah.
me and my sisters. And
Your sisters did a lot.
yeah, well, see, I was 6 years younger than Aunt Irene, so.
Okay.
But I remember helping Dad do that. And he'd milk the cow and put more milk in a cup for me and for all of us. And that's why I don't like milk today, because it was warm and unpasteurized.
See, in them days,
Right from the cow.
Right from
they
the cow.
didn't have much refrigeration, so they would put their milk and stuff in a stream. See, the stream is
Right.
like
Well,
cooling it
Dad
down.
had a milk house,
Yeah.
and he had a big tub in there that he'd put water in. And then he'd set his milk cans in that.
Okay.
If he had more that would fit in there, he'd take them across the road. There was a spring house over across the road, and he put them in that.
Wow.
Keeps
Yeah.
big thing was keeping it
Cold
so
until the milk truck
if
comes.
it's too hot, you know,
Yeah.
milk didn't last long.
And I made a playhouse down in the milk house.
In the milk house?
I had my dolls down there.
I didn't even know at that time.
No,
Yeah.
he didn't know.
I wasn't even in Milton.
Yeah. So, I think you told me once how you would have to wait for the school bus.
Oh, we had to walk from the house down to the corner.
Okay.
And in the wintertime, it was cold. And my sisters would walk with me down there. But they had boyfriends.
Ah.
And the boyfriends would come and pick them up. And I was left to ride on the school bus.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, because they
You
were
often told them that too.
Yeah, I did. I still tell them that. He used to leave me on the corner. But the lady on the corner that lived in the house across from where we stood,
Right.
sometimes they'd have me come up and come inside.
Because it was so cold.
Cold. But that was the place where you would call them hoarders.
Ah.
I mean, there was just a place to walk, no place to sit much or anything
really.
like that.
They hoard everything.
But they were nice people.
Yeah.
That's like David. You
Yeah.
ought to see David Warner's cellar.
It's
Unreal.
got paths through there.
Yeah.
Just like this.
Yeah.
Really.
And was the school the elementary school?
Elementary school over here. I was in. There was two grades in one room, or three grades in one room.
Okay.
And to get a drink of water, they had a big jug up on a on a shelf,
Table
like.
or so.
And when it was empty, she'd pick a couple kids and take the bucket down and fill it up, because on the back street there was a spring that that was
Really?
running all the time, and we'd go down there and fill up the bucket
And take it
and
back
take
out.
it back, and then she'd lift it up and put it in the jug.
Wow.
On that, yeah. But it was
And was Williamson still? Would Aunt Irene and Aunt Virginia go to Williamson?
They went over here to school, over to this school, because at that time they had seniors and juniors in there.
Okay.
See, the school, my school that I went to is where the post office is
Okay.
now.
I
They
remember
have
that
since
old
torn
building.
that down.
Right.
But there was my brother would come from the big school over, and they'd have agriculture class upstairs,
Ah. Okay.
and they had, and we were all downstairs.
I see.
But yeah, my sisters graduated, and Delbert graduated from Millerton
Millerton.
High School. Yeah,
And did you, or did you go to Williamson?
we went to Williamson when I got to be in the 8th grade.
Oh well. So you had to take the bus.
Had to take the bus. Yeah,
See, I didn't even know him.
Yeah.
he didn't. He wasn't here then yet. Mr. Vanderpool used to drive the bus, and sometimes he'd pick me up down by the house if he saw me coming.
Ah. Okay.
So yeah, it was. I broke my leg.
What happened?
Well, we lived upstairs, and Rick was little, very little. I think he was only a couple, 3 weeks old.
Oh, coming down back of the step.
Yeah, coming down the back steps of the
Restaurant?
Yeah, and I slipped and fell
With Rick?
with Rick in my arms, and I was holding on tight to him, and I broke my leg.
Wow.
And I didn't know it, and I was walking on it, because I had gotten him in the car because I was going to go to work. And then I took him up to Aunt Irene's. And she said, "Why are you limping?" I said, "Well, I fell down the back step there." And she said, "You got a broken leg." So
Wow.
when Harold come home that night, he took me down to the hospital.
You waited until
Well,
the
I
whole...
didn't have no way to get there.
Really?
Oh,
I
wow.
had no way to get there.
So did they put a cast in?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I
yeah.
was in a cast
With a little one?
with a little one. Yeah.
One thing, they had insurance they paid you while you were off work.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
John did.
John Wells did.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, he paid for me being off work. But we've had a lot of ups and downs
Oh, yeah.
over our time.
She had quite a life before, on that farm. It wasn't no easy matter.
My mother used to, my dad would go out and cut wheat, or hay, I'm sorry, cut hay, and all the neighbors would come and help him sometimes put it in the barn, and Mother would fix dinner for them all. Well, she and Aunt Hava, I called her Aunt Hava because she lived across the way, just like you kids call
Yeah.
Aunt
Aunt Peggy.
And so, she cooked dinner for all of them while
Really?
we were all in school. But she cooked dinner, and they'd sit in the dining room. We had a big dining room. No bathroom.
No bathroom?
No bathroom in the house.
We didn't even have bathroom up there when we lived there.
So, did you have an outhouse?
Outhouse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
2
So when
holes.
it's cold like this?
You had to go
Yeah. Oh, you
either
had
that or go in the
in the pail,
in the
then you
pail.
took it
Yeah.
out
Take
and
it
dumped
out.
it.
Wow.
Yeah. We didn't have no water over here either,
Really?
did we have?
No, I had to go downstairs and pump it and then take it upstairs.
Yeah. We didn't have the glory things we
Yeah.
have now.
I can remember Grandpa, how big a man he was.
Yeah.
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 Real rugged.
Yeah, Rick
Yeah.
looks like him too.
Yeah.
He's built like him too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I remember he had a full head of hair.
yeah, he did. He did.
And Grandma would make those sugar cookies,
Sugar
big round
cookies.
sugar
yeah.
cookies.
Yeah. I'd take the dog over there. Now let's see, what was his?
Pudgy?
No, it wasn't Pudgy. It was
Snooper.
Snooper.
Oh, I remember seeing it.
And when I go over to see Mother in the trailer over here by the post office, up on the bank, he'd go with me. And he'd lay out on the front porch waiting for me to come out. Well, one time I went out the back door. I just forgot about it.
Right.
And Mother called me when she thought I'd gotten home, and she said, "Your dog is still over here." So, so I had walked part way back, and I called his name, and then he came, come running. Yeah, he'd go everywhere we went. Yeah.
I can remember him laying here, and his tail would thump
Yeah.
up against the register.
Yeah. He was a good dog.
Yeah.
Good dog. Duffy was too.
Yes.
Lee taught Duffy to. That's when your father was smoking cigars,
He would take,
and he'd tell when your father was sitting in that rocking chair in there, not that one, but a rocking chair in there. Lee taught him to climb up in the chair and around Harold's neck and lay down
give me my cigar right
and
here.
drop his cigar.
Really?
Yeah,
He did.
he did. He taught him that. That was fun.
And then we got that Pudgy was before
Oh, yeah,
Duffy,
that was
and that was Grandma's.
Grandma's dog.
And why did she?
Well, she just didn't want him anymore. Didn't want him anymore because they would go a lot, you know. So
Yeah.
I took him over here, and he was a good dog.
And
Him and the cat used to play together.
Oh,
The cat
yeah.
would get in a paper bag, and Duffy would, Pudgy
Pudgy.
would pounce on it. And everything out, you know.
Get inside of it, then you'll see the bag going here and there and everywhere.
I think I'm sure I got my love
Oh.
of animals from
Oh yeah.
Oh,
You
I
guys.
know. You got lots of pictures here.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. When I see that advertisement of the SPCA come on,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that song, I
Yeah.
can't watch it. I can't watch it. There's such sad eyes.
Duffy was a good dog.
Yes, he was. A guy that I worked with up at the warehouse on McGee Street told me about the dog, and you and I went up and picked him out.
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
You sure it wasn't Lee?
No, it was you.
Really?
Yeah, it was you.
See, she had her own life here. I wasn't around here. I was just until I come out of the service.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
see, I was when I come out of the service in '48. You know, then I got a job with the electric company.
So what was it like to build a house?
Hard.
Well, it's just like anything else. We had to go to the bank, and at that time, 15 years was the most you could have a mortgage.
Okay.
All the banks.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, he explained to me. He
Mr.
says, "I'll
Taylor.
give you $1,500
To start.
every 2 weeks or 3 weeks when you need it,
Mm-hmm.
and when you get up to $6,000, we'll mortgage the house." So
Every other week or so, Mr. Taylor would come over and see what we were doing.
well,
Because he had an interest, right?
That's right.
she was going with a guy, or knew a guy. What was his name? That built the house.
George Doan.
George Doan. Him and his brother would come in. I didn't know nothing about it. Put all the petitions in, put just the roof on. I
Right.
put the other stuff on. Things that I could do, I do, but I didn't know a damn thing. Then the cellar I put up on myself, cinder block.
Wow.
And
And you did the cement in between the cinder
Yeah.
blocks? And,
oh yeah, I done
Yeah.
all that. And of course,
and where were you living while you were building?
over to I was working in the truck because I brought stuff back from the truck.
But where were we living? With your mother?
Yeah.
I think with his mother.
Then he would charge me for what he did,
Right.
you know, and I would put the roof on, just the plywood and stuff
Right.
that I could do.
We didn't have any of this on out
Oh
there.
no,
Yeah.
Not for
Yeah.
a long time.
Then of course John over here, John helped me mix the concrete all by hand.
Wow.
And I didn't know that. Well, you can see how ripple it is. I
Yeah,
mean, you know,
yeah.
nothing like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I did it little
And-
by little.
Uncle Roger sold you the land?
Land for $500, and I told him when I
He said,
Yeah.
well, if I sell you this land for $500, you've
It-
always
it-
started something and never finished it.
Which was the truth.
And it was the truth.
Uh,
And he says, if you finish it,
we're good to
Well,
go.
you finish it, you just give me my $500.
yeah, and if you don't finish it,
It goes to me.
it didn't come back to us.
Right.
But your dad followed through on that.
Oh,
And how long did it take to build the house?
I started in 57, I think. I can look it up somewhere. No, I started about in 56, 55, 56.
Yeah, because when Randy was born, we had the house.
Yeah, he played in this house.
Yeah. We had,
Blocks,
well, we had
plywood.
plywood floors.
Really?
Yeah, we didn't have the money.
Yeah.
We were paying $60 a month mortgage.
50 bucks.
$60.
Well, 60.
$60. And there was times we couldn't even pay that. We had to pay just the interest.
Really?
Yeah.
At that time was $14, I think. I'll tell you.
Mr. Taylor was a
Helped
very
us
nice
get some-
man.
Yeah.
Couldn't do that nowadays.
Oh, my
Well,
goodness.
Not like he did. Well, really, the one that gave us the start was Emmett,
Steve.
Virginia's husband, Emmett Stephen. He knew Mr. Taylor, and he kind of said, well, them two will pay you. So really,
Yeah.
so we went over there, and before we started, and he said, Emmett was in here and says that you kids will be okay.
Wow.
So it really helps to have somebody. Oh, you probably seen it in your job.
yeah.
People
Yeah.
helped you, huh?
Oh, yeah. Go out of their way.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Somebody says, well, he's a good worker, or well, look at Timmy with all the guys he's got coming.
We had plywood floors for a long time.
Really?
No doors.
No,
Now, what
had curtains.
what
Yeah.
made you build the bomb shelter, Dad?
Just got scared.
Really?
Well, that was time of the Cuba
Ah.
Cuba
60s.
in the 60s.
And you just decided to build it?
Well, a guy owed me a favor, and he was a mason.
Okay.
And I had extra blocks here, and I
Dave was his first name.
Wheeler, I think, a Wheeler. Anyway, he went down, he charged me $75 to put the blocks and stuff in.
Huh.
Then I put wood on top, then sand on
We
top.
put sandbags on top. We
I remember.
filled it with, water and food.
Had the stereo cans
Yeah.
or
Still down there.
really?
Cans of heat cans.
Yeah.
We use them when the electric goes out.
Oh, really? People can't believe when I tell them
No.
Dad built a bomb shelter.
Yeah, well, that was at the time that Kennedy was having trouble with
Cuba.
Cuba,
Yeah.
and they was going to shoot
Russia.
rockets.
Wow.
I just felt better, and he owed me a favor anyhow, and that way I got that little room done.
Yeah.
Where I would have had to do it myself. Then a couple.
It was a big thing back then, the Cuba
Oh, yeah.
crisis.
Then what was his name? The guy helped me lay the blocks out front. Come out of service. Oh.
I don't know.
Oh, you know him.
What would he do?
Taylor, not Taylor.
What did he do, Dad?
Huh?
What did he do?
He was a mason.
He did what for you?
He built the porch up.
No, honey. He came home from service, and he didn't have nothing to do, and he asked me, can he help me put blocks up the front?
Calvert Everett.
Calvin Everett. So, I mean, yeah, Calvin, come on. I mean, he laid probably 20 or 30 blocks for me. I remember him doing that. I asked him, no, you don't owe me nothing. Guys like that, you don't forget. Well, Jimmy,
Andrews.
no, your cousin works with Timmy.
Frank.
Oh, Jimmy Frank.
Jimmy Frank, this was all field back there.
Mm-hmm.
He went back there on his own, I can remember, cut all that up, him and Timmy, and didn't charge me nothing. I never forgot that.
Yeah.
That was all brush back there.
Yeah, I
So,
remember that.
Brush up here,
Oh, yeah.
a little path over to
We used to keep
NRA.
the garbage cans up there.
Yeah.
And had
you
a
used to play
piece
right up.
of wood to
Yeah.
go over the ditch.
Yeah.
You used to play right there all
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
Anyway, him and Timmy went out there and cleaned it all up for me. And so when he built the swimming pool, I had them 2x2 blocks I took up here, and I took them up there and gave them to him.
I can remember you driving truck and you would park at
Down.
Aunt Hilda's.
And walk up
Can
there.
you remember
Oh,
that?
yeah.
Yeah, there was no place for him
Yeah.
to turn around
Yeah.
up here.
I remember looking out the front window and seeing the
Oh, yeah.
truck parked down
Yeah.
there.
Then when we decided to buy that land down there where the laundromat was,
Mm.
and here I remortgaged this house to buy that.
Really?
Yeah.
You and Uncle Bob?
No, I did it on my own.
Oh, really?
Bobby didn't have nothing to do with that because this was my house,
Oh,
and so
yeah.
I bought the whole thing. And,
Yeah. Totally your risk.
yeah, but you
What's
didn't-
that, Harold?
the land down the laundromat.
Oh, yeah.
We remortgaged it with this. And then when I sold it to Emmett, it cost me $4,500. Me and Bobby put all the machines in and
Right,
everything. And he bought it from us for $13,000.
Huh.
So then I come up and paid us all off, everything.
Bought a truck.
I can remember when we had the laundromat, we used to sit at the kitchen table
And count
and
the
do
quarters.
the coins.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, all the coins.
Yeah.
Then of course we used it as a restaurant. And,
Gambled upstairs.
Really?
Played cards.
Really?
we used to get 10 or 20 cents every game they played. Put
And
it in
if
the
they
pot.
played all night, I'd go down on the grill and fix
Oh,
them
really?
all breakfast.
Yeah. I got pictures of Sonny Wheeler. He died last week.
We got pictures of Donnie Burnett and
All of them down there.
all of them down there sitting in the booth.
That's amazing.
I can't believe we ever had that.
Now, of course, when I come back, what was that? I don't know.
Getting hungry, Mom?
I'm getting
I didn't go in the service. Bobby and I lived down the trailer court,
Mm.
you know, down there where Ripples is. That used
Oh,
to be
yeah.
a big trailer court.
Oh, really?
We lived down there, went to school where Linda's beauty parlor is. Used
Oh,
to be
really?
a school there.
Uh-huh.
And me and Bobby, at that time, we went anywhere to take metal, like going down the streams, pulling it out of the dirt.
Yeah. I remember you worked some jobs and they'd have wire left over and they'd give it to
Burn
you
it. Oh,
and you would
yeah.
come out here and burn it for the
Oh,
copper.
Yeah. Well, sure. And then Bobby and I saw that pump down there, the Hudson Cider Mill, and we thought it was junk. So we went and bought a new sledgehammer from Sears.
Uh-huh.
Me and Bobby went and broke it up and took it to the junkyard.
Uh-huh.
Didn't think nothing of it. First didn't know.
Cop.
Cops come up and he asked us, "Did you go down and take that pump?" "Yeah." "Well, what time did you do?" "Oh, a bright day. We went right down." "Yeah." We didn't lie to him
Yeah.
or nothing.
Yeah.
Yes, we both did it. We didn't think it was any good. Well, that pump worked the cider mill.
Oh, really?
So really, we went to court,
Uh-huh.
and it cost us. We said that we would pay it all $380.
Uh-huh.
But what did it? is the cops went to the junkyard, and Kaplan told them who gave them, which
Right.
was nothing. So
Yeah.
that's how they come and got us.
Yeah.
And I got real close with Kaplan there,
Oh, really?
you know. And so we went to court, and I was going to go in the service.
Judge told you.
Huh?
The judge told you
You either go
in the service.
in the service or I'll put you in jail.
Really?
Yeah, well. And then I said, well, I'm going in the service. I went in the service, we paid it back. That's all the last I heard. That's it. I got a piece in the paper.
Oh, really?
2 brothers.
Really? You and Uncle Bob.
I got to keep that for you or send it to you
Okay.
if I find it again.
I never knew that.
Oh, yeah. Well, Bobby, see, at that time he wasn't in the war or nothing.
Is that snowing out?
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
Well, a little bit.
Okay. Well, I think we did well.
We did pretty
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna stop it and